Hi, everybody. I can see that there's already a good number of people showing up. I started this just a minute early because I wanted to give some time for everybody to make their way into the webinar. So we're going to get started in maybe another minute or so, just because there's a pretty high number of registries today. So I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to get here before we get started. Just off the bat, Philip asked if this is going to be recorded. So just so everybody knows, this session is going to be recorded, and we're going to be sending out the copy of the recording after this is done. So you'll all get a copy to watch on your own time. So if you come a little bit late, or if you have to leave a little bit early, don't worry about it. You will get a copy on your own, even if you need to share with other people after. All right, so I think we're gonna get started because there's a good number of people here, but I don't want to take up everyone's time today. So thank you again for joining. So hi everybody, my name is Sophie and I'm part of the customer success team here at Umapped. We're so happy that you registered and joined us for our inaugural summer school series, and we thank you for taking the time to join us for today's first part in this 5-part series. You might also notice that one of my colleagues, Barry, is also here to kind of field any questions while we're going through. So don't worry, you can leave your comments, your questions as we go, and we'll either get to them towards the end of the Q&A period, or Barry will actually answer you live. So keep an eye on your questions because you might receive an answer. So each week for the month of July, we'll build on what we've learned during the previous sessions, and at the end of the month, you'll walk away with the confidence that you are leveraging all of Umapped's functionality to streamline your workflow and meet your business and customer needs, and content-rich profiles, templates, and trips so that you're ready to inspire your clients as they dream and plan for future travel. So during today's session, we'll be reviewing how you can make sure that you're set up for success. So this will include how to navigate the trip publisher, making sure that your profile and branding are correctly set so that you're ready to go, how to customize your client's experience via your account preferences, and making sure that you know all about our system and supplier integrations that are available to you. It's so important to take the time to make sure that you have configured all of the system and supplier integrations that are relevant to your business and workflow. This is where you gain the most efficiencies and save the most time. After this session, you will know that you have your account set up, that you're leveraging all of the features available to you, and that you don't have to think about any of this again and can just focus on building content, creating trips, and more. We'll also make time, like I mentioned, to address some questions at the end of the session. So you can leave all of your questions in the Q&A section, which is in the toolbar just below. So just a couple more housekeeping items before we get started. Like I mentioned, after each session, we will send a follow-up email that will include a recording of today's session, some important links for training and instructions, as well as the next steps so that you can prepare for part 2 of this series. Additionally, if you're new to Umapped, I want to make sure that you have access to a complimentary trial. From our website, which is umapped.com, click on Sign Up in the top right and complete the trial request form. Once your trial account has been set up, a member of our customer success team will send you a confirmation email with all of your account credentials and further login instructions. So with that, let's actually get started. So the first thing that we want to look at is the client experience, what your clients will receive when you send them their itinerary that is built in and powered by Umapped. This is important to review as we take a look at the different ways that you can customize the client experience a little later on during this session. So when ready, your client's trips are delivered by email and are available in 3 different formats. Your clients can access their trips online, as a PDF, and via the Umapped mobile app. All formats of the trip are branded for you and include your company logo and contact details. So this in front of me right now is an example of the trip email that your clients will receive, giving them access to their trip. Your branding and contact details will be displayed at the bottom of the email. And we'll take a look soon at how you can make sure that you've completed your profile with all of your details. So this email is all your client needs in order to access their trip. They can click on the View Your Trip button in order to access the web view of their trip, as well as the trip PDF, or click on the App Store and Google Play Store icons to download the Umapped mobile app. So let's start by taking a look at the web view. This View Your Trip button opens a dynamic trip link that can be bookmarked and accessed at any time. When your clients are accessing the web view for the very first time, they will need to enter their email in order to validate that they are a traveler on this trip. The first thing your clients will see in their day-by-day itinerary is your branding right at the top. There is also a download button for the trip PDF, of which we have two different versions, a full PDF and a print-friendly option without any images. I'm going to download the PDF and then come back to this in a few moments. Your clients can view their day-by-day trip details and any important information that you've included in their trip just by scrolling down. The amount of details or information in the trip is always up to you based on your clients and based on the kind of trip that you've provided them. All of the photos that have been displayed here, let me just open up the photos for this hotel segment, have been added from one of the many image libraries in the trip publisher. We have hotel and cruise photos preloaded for many properties and cruise lines, as well as a photo library licensed for commercial reuse. Also, note this chat icon which displays on trip segments. This is the messenger feature. When enabled, it allows for real-time chat and notifications, which your clients can access on the web and mobile app trip views. When your clients chat with you using the messenger, you will receive an email notification, and you can even reply directly from your email. You can also access the chat messages from within the trip publisher itself, and your reply will display into the chat window, much like this one right here. This is also where your clients will receive any day of flight notifications. We'll talk more about this when we look at our account preferences soon. Also note the add icon, this little blue plus button, located in the bottom right corner of the page. This is the traveler collaboration feature that is available on both the web view as well as the mobile app. This feature allows your clients to add to their trips, things like dinner reservations, trip notes, or any other activities that they have booked on their own. While they cannot edit or delete any of the segments that you have added, it allows your clients to consolidate all of their information in one place with one consolidated view of their trip. Now looking at the top, the Documents tab is where any supporting documentation for the trip is available. This can include PDF attachments like vouchers and e-tickets, destination content, and any other important travel information that your clients may need to reference. Aside that, the trip map will pinpoint all of the destinations that your clients are traveling to. And there is also a trip calendar, where clients can view all of the trip details on a calendar view with the option by clicking on this Add to Calendar button to sync to their personal Google Calendar, iCal, or Outlook calendars. The web view is mobile responsive and will resize to fit to the device that your client is using, whether on a phone, tablet, or desktop. Moving to the PDF. The PDF provides a printable option for your customers who still prefer paper. There are 4 different design templates that you can select from in your preferences in the trip publisher. Yet another place where you can set your preferences and impact the client experience. And now I'm just going to switch my screen to my mobile simulator so everybody has the same view of the app. So your clients have the option to download the Umapped mobile app from either the App Store or the Google Play Store so that they can view their trips on their smartphones while they're on the go or in destination. One of the great benefits of the mobile app is that trip details are available even when your client's phone is offline, so meaning no Wi-Fi and no network connection. Additionally, if I go into one of these segments and just scroll down a little bit, you can see that they can access directions as well as live weather reporting. And additionally, if I go back to the beginning of my trip, you will notice that the branding and contact details will always be displayed at the very top, so it's always very easy for your clients to get in touch with you in a myriad of ways. All right, so let's switch back to my main screen. There we go. All right, so now that we've been reminded of the client experience, let's dive into today's first topic, which is setting up your profile and your branding. First things first, let's go into the trip publisher. I'm just going to add my credentials here and log in. If you do not see your logo at the top left when you log into the trip publisher, it means that your logo has not yet been added to your company account. If you are your company administrator, you will see the company tab right here on the main menu bar. And if you do not see this option, it means that you must reach out to your company admin to request that your logo be loaded. Of course, if you don't know who your company admin is, then you can always contact our support team at support@umapped.com. If you are your company administrator, navigate to the company tab. By clicking on the options icon to the right of the company name, you'll be able to either edit your company profile. So this includes information about the address, the contact person, and additional contact information. Or you can upload your company logo. Now let's take a look at the bottom left of your account. This is where your main account details and information can be accessed. If you click on your user details, a drop-down will appear and display My Account, Preferences, Plans, and Logout. For our new users, and even for our longtime users, I suggest selecting My Account to update your account profile information, as these are the details which are displayed in the client experience that we just saw. So in the trip email, on the web view, and in the mobile app. You can add your phone number, either a mobile or a regular phone or even a fax. You can add your social media links so that your clients are always able to reach you, as well as your website. If you ever need to change your name or the email address associated with your account, simply reach out to us at support@umapped.com in order for us to assist you. This is also where you can come to change your password down here at the bottom, or upload your own personal profile photo. So as you can see, all of my profile details are filled in. So now let's move on to my account preferences. That's the next one on the user profile. So this is where you can select from different options, like the trip PDF, and where you can manage features like Messenger and Traveler collaboration. It is important to note that you will see different preferences depending on the plan that you're on. If you're on the individual plan, for example, this plan does not include flight notifications and the Messenger feature. So if you're interested in upgrading, you can, once again, contact our customer success team at support@umapped.com. So here are the different preferences that you can enable. The first is the 24-hour clock. So when disabled, all of your trip times are displayed in the 12-hour clock format. Enabling this, like I just did right there, will display trip times in a 24-hour clock format. So if you're European, or if maybe you're from Quebec like me, this might be something that you prefer. Email notifications After enabling this preference, you will receive email digests of any messages that you have missed while you're offline. Next is flight notifications. So enabling this preference will allow travelers on a trip to receive notifications by email, on the web, and via the mobile app of any day of flight delays, gate changes, or cancellations. Flights are tracked starting 24 hours prior to the scheduled departure time. Next is traveler collaboration. So enabling this preference allows travelers to add their own bookings and notes to the itinerary, much like I mentioned before when we were in the web view. And then traveler messaging. So enabling this preference allows a two-way communication between you and your travelers. When disabled, you will still be able to send messages to your travelers, but they will be unable to reply. So this section allows you to truly customize both your client's experience as well as your own. For instance, if your travelers are in another continent 12 hours ahead of you, you might not be so keen on enabling the messenger feature, and you might just prefer to just stick with email. Conversely, if you want to communicate with your clients exclusively via the mobile app or the web view, you might want to disable the email notification so you won't receive any email alerts to clog up your inbox. And then of course, like I mentioned, this is also where you'll be able to choose from the 4 different PDF template options. We have layout 1, which is just thumbnails, and it's the default option. Layout 2 is just large photos. Layout 3, of course, is a mix of both large photos and thumbnails. And then layout 4 is the simplest of all of them. It's just simply a no photo PDF. Once you save, never forget to click save, all of your preferences, then you only have to come back to this part of your account if you want to make any changes to any of your selections in the future. Once these are set, you should be good to go. All right, we want to take a minute now to give some high-level details about the Trip Publisher's main menu bar at the top. When you log into the Trip Publisher, you will always land on your trip dashboard. This is by design so that you can easily access your client's trips as efficiently as possible. Your trip dashboard is also where you can search and access all of your past and future trips, as well as filter trips by a keyword, so that you can always keep track of your trips. While your trips are sorted by date by default, as you can see, you can also always sort your trips alphabetically, just by clicking on these up and down arrows over here. So that gives you a little bit more control about how you're actually perceiving your trips. On this screen, you can also see the number of travelers on a specific trip and other essential information, such as the trip name, the dates, and the status. And then of course, when you click on the filters icon right beside the search bar, you can always really get deep into the search by searching by the date. So if it's an active, a future, or a past trip, by the status itself. So if you want to monitor your pending trips or your published trips, as well as, and this is quite recent, the creation date of your trip. So this would be if you've created your trip in the last day, in the last week, or even in the last month. Let's just clear those. If you've been added to somebody else's trip as a collaborator, you will be able to access those trips by clicking on the second tab over here, Trips Shared with Me. Depending on your access level, you will have varying degrees of edit capabilities, ranging from viewing access only to full access like I have here. Depending on your plan type, you may also be able to view all of the trips that have been created by your company by selecting Company Trips. You can see that because I'm a company administrator, I can see the trips created by both myself as well as other people in my company, like my other colleagues. All right, so now that we've looked at all that, And then, of course, the email API log simply gives you some information on any emails that you forwarded into the trip publisher. All right, so now we're going to look at everything at the very top toolbar over here. So the dashboard tab is essentially your home page button. When you click on it, you'll always be brought back to this main page. Beside that, templates is where you can create and access any of your templates. Templates are day-by-day itineraries, much like trips, but without specific days. Instead, set a template duration and include all of the elements that you'd want in a great trip. Templates can be used over and over again to create itineraries for your clients. But of course, we're going to touch more on this later this month. The Vendors tab allows you to create customized profiles for hotels, cruises, activities, which will let you add address information and photos, much like this one right here. We'll cover more on this during our next session. Accessing the library, you can save content for guides and other templated notes. You can also create your own custom library in Trip Publisher. This can be destination content or other documents like term and conditions, packing lists, or agency contact information. We'll learn more about managing content in the Trip Publisher in one of our next sessions as well. If you're a company administrator, you will also have access to the tags and company tabs. We've talked briefly about the company tab, and we will touch on tags during our 4th session. And of course, I would also like to highlight the support portal. By clicking on support, you can gain instant access to our online knowledge portal, which has a variety of different solutions for all sorts of questions. Or you can send your own personal questions to our customer success team directly from within the Trip Publisher, so without having to even go to your email. On your dashboard, to the rightmost side, you can click on the messaging icon to access your messages, the clock icon to access your recently viewed trips, and much more, as you can see. And you can click on Create Trip to create your new trips. Okay, I'm going to now navigate to Import Bookings. So let's just open up a little slide I have right here. So it's important to note that the Trip Publisher is systems agnostic. It doesn't matter which systems you do or do not use, this platform is for everyone. However, we want to review some of the key GDS and system integrations that are available to make sure that if you do use these systems for your business, you are leveraging the efficiency of the available integrations. So let's take a quick look at each available integration. Based on the systems that you use and don't use, we will receive full setup and workflow instructions as part of the follow-up for today's webinar. So here's a summary to set your expectations. A is Sabre. For Sabre, a one-time setup is required per agency. Our integration is a direct connection to your company's Sabre account and is a queue-based workflow where you can queue PNRs into your Trip Publisher account and they will become available in your booking inbox. So let's actually do a demonstration of what that looks like. I'm going to go back to the Trip Publisher, and then here in the booking inbox, in the keyword field, I'm going to add my sample PNR into the keyword box and click on search. You can click the drop-down arrow to view all of the details of this PNR, and then select the options icon, which are the 3 vertical dots, and you can either add this to a trip or you can create a brand new trip from this. This particular PNR contains flights and accommodations only, but anything that has been booked in Sabre will be imported, formatted, and then ordered chronologically. So I'm actually just going to create a brand new trip right now. So let's just say this is my Working Smart Session 1 trip, and create. We're just going to give that a second. The best part of this integration with Sabre is that anytime that you make a change to the PNR in Sabre, all you have to do is re-queue it to the trip publisher, and your trip will automatically update. For any imported data from any system, if you need to edit or view any information within a specific segment, click on the View Details button. A right drawer will open, and you can now view all of the flight segments or the hotel segments. I'm just going to click on this flight. So in this flight segment, for example, I can view the passenger details, as well as any other available details that were part of the PNR. And then when hovering over the top right for any of these different categories, I can click the pencil icon to further edit, or I can select the trash icon to delete. For Amadeus, there is no setup required. You can actually forward your Amadeus booking emails into the trip publisher, and the email will be available in the booking inbox just beneath over here. If you want to see kind of what that looks like, I'm just going to sign into one of my other accounts where I've recently done this. So this right here in my other account is an example of a email confirmation that was forwarded into the trip publisher. So you just have to go to import bookings from either the dashboard or from within a trip, and it will be located just like this. So let's go back to my other account. And then of course you can add that booking email to any trip. For Travelport, there's also no setup required. So we're going to go back to the trip publisher, and then this time, rather than going to import bookings from the dashboard, we're actually going to go into a trip, and now we're going to click import bookings from here. That way we can click on the PNR import tab. This is only, of course, available within the trip. So you just need to enter your client's PNR, the last name, and then choose your GDS. So whether it's Sabre Tripcase, Galileo Apollo, or WorldSpan, and then select import to import the details into the trip. For our other systems, I'm going to go back to the booking inbox. For client base, let's go back over here and just go down to the system integrations. There is a one-time setup required per agency. Once it's set up, you'll go back to the trip publisher, and then either from within a trip or from the dashboard, come to the booking inbox, and then enter the res card number into the keyword field right here. So I'm going to give an example. That's my res card number, and then here's my res card. And then of course, like before, follow the same steps as demonstrated when adding my Sabre PNR. You can again select the drop-down arrow if you want to view what's included in this res card, and then add it to your trip. It's good to note that Umapped syncs to the TRAMS central database 6 times a day. So please allow up to 3 hours for your res cards or any edits to existing res cards to be available and then updated in the trip publisher to account for both the Umapped sync frequency as well as your company's sync frequency. Please also note that any res cards created over 6 months prior to the date of import will not be synced. Let's go back to our dashboard and come back here. For travel contact, there is a setup required per user as well as the agency, just a one-time user setup. And then you can then push your trip data from travel contact to the trip publisher. And once your trip has been pushed, and there is a button within the travel contact system to push to Umapped, it will automatically appear as a regular trip under your My Trips due to the auto publish feature. So you won't have to go look for it anywhere. It's just going to appear under My Trips with the right name and everything on it. And then of course you can always go into it later on and then make any edits or changes that you need to by clicking on View Details or anything else. Going back to this reference sheet. For Tramada, again, there is a required one-time agency setup. And then once you're set up, you just need to push or send your trip data from Tramada to the trip publisher. Again, there is a button within the Tramada system itself for you to send your trip across. And then once you have sent your trip from Tramada to Umapped, it will appear much like this one right here. This is actually one I have in my own account. So generic name will be there, such as itinerary and costing full. You won't have any kind of cover photo, so that will need to be added. But all of the information that was included in the Tramada booking will be right in here. Again, this is all due to the auto publish feature. So anytime you push a trip from either Travel Contact or Tramada, they will always be located just beneath here in My Trips. So everybody registered here today will receive full details in the follow-up email so that you can make sure to get your account set up if it isn't already. Sorry, just one second. Perfect. If you want to learn more about how you can get one of these setups, you can also contact our customer success team for further instructions following our webinar. So now I'm going to go into my trip and I'm going to navigate to suppliers. We also have a variety of supplier integrations which can be accessed from the left navigation of any trip. And while most of our supplier integrations require no setup to use, there are a few that do, including Classic Vacations, Project Expedition, where's the other one? DMC Explorer, and Ultimate Jet Vacations. If you book and partner with any of these suppliers, please make sure to follow the instructions that will be shared with you after today's session in order to get set up to import now. This will save you time in the future when you're ready to import bookings because the setup will already be completed. As a reminder, you can click on any supplier logo to learn how the integration works and/or reference the full step-by-step guide in our support portal. So if you come to hub-support.umapped.com, you'll notice that there's actually a category just for our supplier integrations here at the bottom. So this includes a supplier integration list with all of the different integrations that we have, as well as within each of these, step-by-step instructions and photos to show you exactly how you can use each of these. And then of course, if you ever have any specific questions that aren't answered by one of these, you can always reach out to support@umapped.com. So over the course of this webinar, we've looked at setting up your profile and branding, how to navigate your trip publisher account, customizing your client's experience via your account preferences, and configuring important systems and supplier integrations. At this point, we'll move on to the live Q&A portion of this webinar. I would like to encourage everyone not only to ask questions about what you've seen during this session, but anything that you have particular concerns or questions about. For anyone that can't stay for today's Q&A, I just wanted to thank you for participating in today's webinar. As mentioned, I will be sending out a follow-up email with a link to a recording, integration setup instructions, and more. All right, so I'm just going to take a quick sip of water, and then 1 second. So let's look into some of the questions. Just going to get everything all set up again. Catherine asked, are flight schedule changes automatically updated or do we have to update? Okay, so this depends on how exactly you are importing your bookings. If you are importing via the PNR import, so like I mentioned before, if you come to the import bookings and then click on PNR import, so this means that there is not a direct integration, then you will have to actually come back here and re-import the PNR if there are any flight schedule changes. If you happen to have the Sabre Live setup that I mentioned earlier, or the client-based setup, because the client-based setup and the Sabre Live are direct integrations, for client base, it will automatically sync to any changes that were made within the client-based system. So after about 3 hours or so, given the sync time. And then for the Sabre Live, if you have any changes that are made in Sabre, you can just re-queue it to the trip publisher, and then it will automatically update within the trip itself. So you won't have to make any of the changes inside of the actual trip. That will just be done within Sabre itself. Okay, that one. Denise asked, will we be able to set up client base during the free trial to try it out? Just one moment. Oh, 1 second. I answered a question that was not first. I just want to get to Beth's first. So Beth, I have been having trouble finding my activity descriptions. I can still find them in the old version, but I can't figure out where they are in the new version. By activity descriptions, I'm not quite sure whether this means the descriptions on actual activity segments, such as this cruise one right here, which has the details section, or if you go into your vendors, let's find an activity that I've saved as a vendor. So Aspen Brewing Company, the photos are all here. And if you click on edit, that's where you can access the address for the activity profile, for the vendor profile that is, and the contact and description info. So this depends, Beth, on what you mean by activity descriptions, but we can always touch on that later. I can always have a quick email with you as well. So for Denise's question, will we be able to set up client base during the free trial to try it out? So you can fill out the client-based downline agreement to enable, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Typically, because of the process, the setup process, it isn't set up during a free trial, but we can always look at that. Okay, so Corina asked, we need agency accounts that are one price for multiple logins to let each agent have their unique login with access to shared documents. If you are a larger agency, you can always contact us and say that you have a variety of accounts that you'd like to set up so that we can do them in one lump sum. But if there's just like 3 or 4, the reason why we have separate accounts for each user is that each user can be logged in at the same time, whereas if they're using one account, they will only be able to log in one at a time. 2 different people can't be using the same account, for instance. And then if you are all part of the same company, you can always access your shared documents in your library. It doesn't matter if you're a company administrator or if you're a power member, everything that was created by someone in your company is available in your library, as well as your vendors. So even if you have just one person in your company that's creating some documents or creating different vendors, every other single person in that company will also be able to access those, since it's shared across the entire company. Susan asked, will you be covering how to create a proposed itinerary? So yes, we will in the upcoming sessions. I also do have a couple instructions for anybody who would like to know a little bit more about creating proposed itineraries, as we did a Beyond the Basics webinar about that a little while ago. So if you'd like that recorded version, we can always send that. But we will be covering more on this in the future as well. So Judy asked, could you please show us how to add a photo from the general image base, not a vendor profile that you set up? So there are a couple different ways to add a photo. So I suppose I'll go over all of the different ways that you can add one without using something that already had a photo. So I'm going to create a brand new accommodation segment, for example. And let's say this is the first time that you've ever created this. It could be an activity, this could be a cruise, it could be anything. I'm just going with hotel for this particular example. So I'm gonna do example hotel for working smart. That's the name of my hotel in this example. So I'm just gonna create that. I'm not gonna bother with this stuff just because it's not relevant to me. I'm gonna create that. And now that I've created that, I can click the pencil icon if I want to add any address information or contact and description. And bear in mind that I'm doing this from the vendors tab. I'm not doing this from within a trip. So it does look a little bit when you're doing it from within a trip. So I'm just doing it here to start. So let's say I want to do 123 example avenue and say Canada. Save. So now when I go to add a photo, there are of course 3 different ways to add a photo. You can always search the photo library. Now I would advise against searching the photo library if you're trying to look for a specific picture of a hotel, because they're probably not going to be available in the public database, just because most websites or most companies, one second, I'm just gonna close my window. Most hotel companies probably won't make their photos available for public consumption based on particular security concerns or their own privacy settings. So if you want to look for a generic photo, you can always use the photo library, or you can always come here to search web and then add a URL and a keyword. I typically say that this is a really good option if you need to get a generic landscape photo or something like that, because you can always add in a keyword, add in unsplash.com, for example, gives you a lot of free for commercial use photos. You could always try adding a photo directly from a hotel website, but again, based on the very specific and very varied privacy concerns from different companies, you may or may not be able to access them by searching the website URL. You can always give it a shot, and I always recommend going maybe to like the gallery section in the hotel, but your best bet if you want specific hotel photos is to upload those photos. And we are going to be very soon announcing some improvements to uploading photos, so stay tuned for that. But my biggest suggestion, if you have any specific very particular photos, would be to do them from this screen, because they possibly won't be available either in the public database or on the website for that particular company. It really depends based on the company itself. Deborah wants to know, do you have training videos for clients to view so that they can learn how to use their itineraries and other features? Actually, yes, I do. I recently created a video that's specifically designed for the clients and how they engage with the trip publisher. So we can always make that available on our support portal, and I can also send that to you directly if you'd like. So just reach out to us after this webinar and I'll send you that video. Janet asked, would I contact the customer success team to set up for some suppliers like Classic Vacations and Ultimate Jet Vacations? That's a really good question. So I'm gonna go back into my trip and go back to suppliers. So for classic vacations, you don't need to reach out to us. You'll see very briefly because I'm actually logged in. So I'm just going to log out of my, it's not letting me log out. For classic vacations, I'm just going to go back here. You only need to log into your account. So you'll see it asked me to log in through the Classic Vacations website, and then you'll add your booking ID. So you don't need to contact us for that. But if you are looking to connect with Ultimate Jet Vacations, you will need to email support@umapped.com. So if you do work with them, after this webinar, we'll reach out to you with further instructions on how to do that. And then Aaron asked, do you have online or on the phone support in case we have issues for incorporating details for a trip? So we always offer support, of course, through email if you reach out to us through support@umapped.com. And then also if you go to our website, umapped.com, and you click on webinars at the top of the screen, you can always book yourself a one-on-one meeting with either myself or another member of the customer success team. These are offered every single day of the week at varying times. So you just need to click on book a time here, and you can actually schedule a personalized 30-minute meeting where you and I can talk. So of course, that's always an option. So one of the attendees that didn't elect to give their name asked, can I have 2 sub-profiles associated to my profile? For example, I work with 2 brands, Ski and Safari, under our primary company, Ski, and we have different email and branding associated to each. We currently have it set up using the different brands as collaborators, but my email and contact details will always be the primary on my profile. Okay, so there's a couple different things to unpack here. One to do with collaborating and kind of co-branding, and the other to do with having companies associated with each other. So there is always the structure of having a host agency and an IC. If you do have a host agency, so in this particular case, if one of the brands is your host agency, we can always make that your host agency in our system, and then that branding will always be available to you to choose from. Otherwise, if you've been adding them as a collaborator, you can actually make the other contact branding the primary one on the trip. So I'm just going to demonstrate that for you by going into one of my trips, and I'm going to add a collaborator if there isn't one already. Okay, there already is one. That's great. And I'm going to come down to my settings here. Just give that a sec. All right, so you'll notice that there's my branding here and another branding here. Now I can make this visible, but I can also choose to make that branding the primary one. So now, even though my original branding is still visible, the primary contact details are actually going to be the other company. So you can always switch who's going to be the primary branding and whose is just the in collaboration with branding. So you always have that kind of flexibility. Terry asked, if part of a host agency, what information do you put into your profile? This is a good question. It really all depends on what information you want to be available to your clients, because in your account settings, so right here, your contact information, even in up here, your company information, if I click on edit profile, all of these details are customizable by you. You don't need to show your host agency if that's not a requisite for you, a prerequisite for you. But if you do want that, there's a couple of different ways. You can always have us change your company name to example company name, an affiliate of, and then the host agency name. So we can always make that the actual name of your company. You can also have that information appear in your contact information if you want to put your host agency's Facebook or their website if that's the main point of contact, or their phone number if that's the main point of contact. Or you can have that be right here in your account preferences. So it's a little bit up to you. It really depends on what information you want to display in the trip itself. If you have no intention on showing your host agency in your trips, and it's not a particularly big concern for you, then you never need to. So Richard asked, what if we do not use Sabre? So of course, if you don't use Sabre, you don't need to actually get the Sabre Live integration. This session was more or less for covering all of the different system integrations that we have. But if you don't use any systems at all, like you don't use a GDS, you don't use client base, you really only book directly with the hotels and directly with the airlines, you can always come to our support portal. I'm just going to pull up the actual article. So this is a really, really good option for people that book directly with hotels and directly with airlines. So if you have a particular company that you booked with, I would suggest coming to the importing via email confirmation solution in our support portal, and then scrolling down to the bottom to pull up the list of supported suppliers. And these are all of the different supported suppliers for email confirmation forwarding. And what that means is if you received an email confirmation from Air Canada, you can actually forward that directly into the trip publisher. So that's kind of what I mentioned earlier about Amadeus, because they're one of our supported suppliers for email forwarding. So I would highly recommend, if you do, to come check out this solution here. And if they're not on the supported supplier list, which is always an option, there are a great deal of different hotels and different airlines. You can always create those manually by coming into your trip and clicking on the add icon at the bottom right-hand side, and then creating all of your different segments. And though I won't get into it too much today because we're kind of nearing the hour mark and I don't want to take up anyone's time, and this is going to be something that we talk about in the upcoming sessions, for people that do primarily book directly with the airlines or directly with hotels or other tour companies, we're going to talk really extensively about how to leverage the vendors tab so that you can have those vendors that you typically book with already loaded into your vendors so that it's very easy for you to pull these up when you're creating your trips with the photos already there, with the address already there, all the contact information that you could possibly need so that you only have to put in the specific traveler information. But again, we're going to really talk about this later on in one of our upcoming sessions. All right, so I might just answer another one or two questions because I don't want to go beyond the hour mark in case anyone has somewhere to be. And then if there are any other questions, we will get back to you in an email later on as all of these questions are being saved. So there's no worry about that. Okay, so let's see. I just want to make sure I'm answering a question that someone that has to do with what we did today. Oh, you know what? Stephanie asked, is there a way to tell when a client has viewed the published itinerary for the first time? So this is a really good question, and I don't think enough people know about this. So I'm going to go into a trip that I know has a traveler on it, and I'm going to go to my traveler page. Now, some of you might know that you can either access travelers by clicking on the share icon, or our newest release, you can click on travelers from the left-hand side. So now if I click on travelers, I can see that I've recently added this traveler. I can see her name, her email, whether or not she's registered for a mobile app account. And if I click on the options icon right beside her name, and I select trip email log, I can actually see whether the email was sent and received, if it was opened up, and I can see that she accessed the web view 7 times, first accessed on July 9th at 9:47, and then last accessed at 12:05 on July 9th. So all of that information is right there. And you could do that with any single one of your travelers. That's not just limited to the one traveler. If you have 5 different travelers, you can do that for each of them. Okay, so I'm going to answer one more question, given that we're nearing the end of our session. And then, like I mentioned, any other questions that I wasn't able to get to, we can also answer in a follow-up email. So Rosie asked, do you have city guides available? So yes, we do. If you come to destination content within your trip, we offer city guides from both Afar and W Cities. So you can click on either of these. No, there's specific points of interest here versus the larger destination guides over here. Because I do actually have some recognized cities in my itinerary, there are a few suggestions. But if I know I have a leg in my journey coming up that I haven't added yet, I can always click the search by city name, and that will allow me to manually enter the name of my city. So let's say Munich, Germany is upcoming, but I didn't add it yet. There we go. Search, and then just check out the content to make sure that it's what you'd like, and then just check it off, and then add to trip. Choose a date, so let's say later on in the trip, and then just confirm that date. So there are a wide variety of locations offered in Afar and W Cities guides. And then of course, if there's anything that isn't offered by any of those, you can always save your own destination content up here in your library. But this is a topic for a different day, as we are doing a very extensive look at using the library in the upcoming sessions. So I'm going to end the webinar now. Just a second. So thank you again to everybody for taking the time to join today's inaugural session. I hope you feel confident that you are leveraging all of the features available to you, or at a minimum that you know how to moving forward. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to my team at support@umapped.com. As a friendly reminder, of course, you can also visit our support portal for self-service guides and FAQs, as this is a very extensive support portal that we've worked on for a while, so it does have a good number of solutions, even specific to whether you're an existing user, a new user, DMC, etc. And once again, I'll be sending out a follow-up email with a link to a recording of this webinar and all of the referenced instructions. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us today, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. So take care, everybody.